for the fourth condition, skills and culture gap. And where we're going to start is at talent scarcity. So, talent scarcity. The shortage of T-shaped professionals combining technical depth with business breadth. The lack of data translators bridging business and technical domains. Statistics graduates with insufficient problem solving and communication skills. Over specialization without cross functional understanding. Second is the cultural resistance. So, gut based decision making persisting despite data investments. Okay, gut-based decision-making persisting despite data investments. The lack of systematic data-driven culture. Executive teams not modeling data-driven behavior. Resistance to evidence-based approaches from experienced leaders. And lastly, we have the organizational learning deficit. So here is insufficient data literacy across organizations, no systematic training in data interpretation, business users intimidated by technical complexity, and technical users unable to communicate in business language. And so what does this all result to? Firstly is capability gaps. Low adoption of self-service analytics tools, bottlenecks in data analytics teams unable to serve all business needs, inability to scale data initiatives organization-wide, continuous dependency on specialized resources, and secondly, we have the cultural misalignment. Data initiatives viewed with skepticism. Quick abandonment when initial results disappoint. The lack of patience for iterative learning and improvement. Continued reliance on how we've always done it. Continued reliance on how we've always done it. And lastly, is the value leakage in the DIAI framework. And so only 15% of organizational data generates business value. Only 36% of data used for insight generation. So the massive loss occurs at each stage. Now the DIA framework, the DIAI framework is, data, insights, actions, impacts. And also the insights are generated but not acted upon. And so again, what does all of this mean, right? There's a deeper meaning in all of this. Firstly, the trust erosion. When data initiatives repeatedly fail to deliver promised value, organizational trust in data erodes. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where skeptical stakeholders resist data projects. Projects receive insufficient support. Projects fail due to lack of adoption. Skepticism increases even further. And second is the capability atrophy, where organizations that relied on big data will solve everything thinking fail to develop fundamental business problem solving capabilities. They outsource thinking to technology, which cannot think strategically. So on to the fifth condition, which is the modern complexity multipliers, which will start with the AI age amplification. The generative AI unlocking the data of the world, making more information accessible while creating even more data to manage. AI requiring high quality data to be effective, amplifying consequences of poor data quality. Large language models creating new data types, synthetic data, AI generated content adding to complexity. Increased urgency, competitive pressure as AI native companies emerge. Second is a distributed data ecosystem. Like I mentioned earlier, over 177 SaaS applications per organization with over 1,000 employees, multiple legacy systems alongside modern platforms, data scattered across cloud, on premise, hybrid environments, growing touchpoints generating data at varying speeds and scales, no clear ownership of data across the value chain, interconnected world, and lastly, there's interconnected world vulnerabilities. The shift from on premise to cloud, creating open, interconnected ecosystems, IoT devices as new attack vendors, mobile devices as data generation and vulnerability points, cyber attacks evolving from simple viruses, such as, for example, the Mars worm affecting 6,000 computers to sophisticated breaches affecting millions. And so the resulting outcomes of all of this is the paradox, of course, the paradox amplification. Yeah, the paradox amplification, where data deluge accelerating while insights drought deepens. More tools creating more complexity rather than simplification. AI promise increasing expectations while capabilities lag. Competitive pressure forcing hasty decisions with insufficient foundations. Secondly is integration nightmares. Incompatible data formats across systems. Inconsistent data definitions and business rules. Difficulty maintaining data lineage and quality across distributed sources. Exponential growth in integration points requiring management. Then we have security versus democratization paradox. Now, this is speaking about the need to protect data versus the need to share data. The more access points creating more vulnerabilities. Okay, wait. Let me start over again. And so, security versus democratization paradox. So basically, here we need to what's important is measuring and managing the need to protect data, which is security, versus the need to share data, which is democratization. More so, in order to do this, more access points creating more vulnerabilities, regulatory compliance, GDPR, CCPA adding complexity, privacy requirements conflicting with personalization opportunities, and then lastly, there is the operational strain, where the data quality compounds over time. And while this happens, small errors become systemic problems. Compliance risks from data breaches affecting organizational reputation. Costs ranging from minor inefficiencies, such as wrong zip codes, to massive failures. And $12.9 million, as I mentioned earlier, which is average annual cost from data quality issues alone. Now, what does this all mean? Now, I'll make an example of a company called Flipkart and the Flipkart revelation, where Nitin Seth, who was an author of Managing the Data Paradox, hired statistics graduates expecting analytical excellence, discovered they lacked fundamental problem-solving skills, communication abilities for business engagements, practical understanding of business context. And so what happened is they shifted to hiring MBAs with engineering backgrounds, people combining clients' engagement skills with mathematical foundations. Now, you must be wondering, what does all this mean? So, the data paradox couldn't be solved by either business people or technical people alone. It required a new breed of T shaped professionals who combined both. And so, what is the strategic implication of all this? Organizations lacking T shaped talents faced permanent competitive disadvantage because they couldn't translate data into business value, regardless of technology investments. And so, what did this result to? Security democratization paradox, right? The interconnected vulnerability. And so, to understand this, you need to go, I'll briefly go through the evolution of threat, right? So, in the 1970s, the Mars worm affected about 6,000 computers, costing between $100,000 to $1 million to repair. In the 2020s, sophisticated breaches affecting millions, costing hundreds of millions. And so, where does the shift lie? From on premise to cloud, creating open, interconnected ecosystems. Now, what do I mean by this? The fundamental tension, need to protect data, conflicts with the need to share data, as I had mentioned earlier. More access points create more vulnerabilities, yet business value requires broad data access. And so there's almost this impossible balance where organizations must simultaneously build walls, which is like your security, while also removing walls, which is democratization, while also monitor everything, and that's the compliance side of things, while also enabling self-service, you know, just to get that autonomy. Now, what do I mean again? The data paradox created structurally contradicting requirements where solving one dimension exacerbated another. And so, again, this resulted in the AI age amplification, where again, the generative AI as a paradox multiplier. And so, what happened? Okay, wait, you need to. Now, again, right, looking at previously what I had said about the AI age amplification, the results of what I had mentioned was the generative AI as a paradox multiplier. So, what happened? You know, an AI unlocked data of the world, making information accessible. AI created even more data, synthetic. Wait a minute. AI created even more data, such as synthetic content and AI generated outputs. AI raised quality stakes, meaning poor data creates poor AI outcomes. AI increased urgency, where which what where competitive pressure from AI companies. So again, what does all of this mean, right? AI doesn't just need data; it needs high quality, relevant, well governed data. Organizations that couldn't solve the data paradox pre AI now face existential risk because their AI initiatives fail due to data problems. The competitive divergence. Organizations that mastered the data paradox, AI accelerates their capabilities. Organizations that were trapped in the paradox, AI amplifies their dysfunction. And so, what does all this mean? AI transformed the data paradox from an efficiency problem into a survival problem. So, the gap between data masters and data strugglers widened exponentially.